My story is from NBC 10 Boston by Sam Drysdale. The headline is Psychedelics Legalization Push Poised for Ballot Failure. Massachusetts voters on Tuesday appeared to reject a ballot measure that would have allowed the personal and clinical use of some natural psychedelic drugs, namely psilocybin, psilocin, DMT, ibogaine, and mescaline. Question 4 had a two-pronged approach to legalizing the substances. It would have authorized a system of psychedelic therapy centers where clients could purchase the drugs with a 15% state tax and use them with supervision from someone who had been trained in accordance with state guidelines. It also would have allowed for residents to grow, share, and use the plants at home, provided that they did not advertise and sell the drugs. At about 12:40 a.m. today, results tabulated by the AP showed 43% in support and 57% against, with 73% of the ballots counted. Quote, we spoke to tens of thousands of Massachusetts voters and heard broad agreement that natural psychedelics should be more accessible to those who cannot find relief through traditional medication and therapy. We understand there were concerns about the home grow provisions, and those concerns likely led to tonight's result. But we have made hugely important strides on this issue of psychedelic therapy, and we will keep fighting to find new pathways for all those who struggle with their mental health. We look forward to working with legislators in the new session to continue advocating for access, for hope, and for healing. A spokesperson for the Yes on 4 campaign, which dubbed itself Massachusetts for Mental Health Options, said around 12:30 a.m. on Wednesday. Over the campaign season, supporters pointed to research that shows natural psychedelics can be used to treat some serious mental health conditions, including PTSD, anxiety, and depression, as well as for addiction treatment. Opponents warned that the substances could have unintended health risks, especially if being used at home unsupervised, and that the likely high cost of treatment at one of the regulated psychedelic therapy centers would be a serious barrier to entry for some. As the question did not pass, it cannot be brought back to ballot again until at least 2028. State law does not allow the same question to be on the ballot 2 election cycles in a row. A few legislative efforts this session to decriminalize psychedelic plants gained a little traction and would be unlikely to go much further next year given Tuesday's vote. Asked about his opinion on question 4 last month, House Speaker Ron Mariano took no particular position. Quote, psychedelics. I outgrew that stuff. Nah, there's no, I don't know, I'll figure it out, Mariano said. The Speaker's office later told the news service he was, quote, joking, end quote, when he made the remark. The headline is Psychedelics Legalization Push Poised for Ballot Failure. And my take is, with more than 40% approval, there's clearly increasing public approval to legalize entheogenic substances. Society will hopefully reclaim the wisdom of the past, popularized by Terence McKenna in his book, The Archaic Revival, which described the use of entheogenic substances by our ancestors in all cultures around the world. This is Omar Figueroa, lawyer, publisher, and Ganjier instructor, reporting from Sonoma County, California, the traditional territory of the Pomo, Miwok, and Wapo nations, for High at 9, high noon Eastern.
Yeah, Omar, man. Psychedelics took a beating last night, and they couldn't psych people up enough to vote yes for them.
Well, they got like pretty good, like 40%. That's what a lot of the cannabis initiatives, how they were doing when they were first proposed. So I see psychedelics following a similar trajectory to cannabis, but there's not this huge push to commercialize psychedelics the way there was with cannabis. Initially, there was a lot of like investors interested in patenting psychedelic compounds and coming up with breakthrough pharmaceuticals. But I think that, our culture has a lot to learn from the past, and we are due for an archaic revival because we are at an existential point in, the humanity's life trajectory. Just looking at like climate change, all our,
Do you really believe in climate change?
Go ahead.
Do you really believe in climate change?
Whatever. Well, do you believe in huge hurricanes in Asheville, North Carolina at 2,000 feet? Like,
I mean,
the Democrats did that. The Democrats did that, Omar. You can't reason with Jason.
No, I'm not even trying to go. My reason for this, Omar, I'm going to tell you why. I don't believe in global warming at all. I think it's a total hoax, and I just want to go into my reasoning. And people are entitled to their own opinions on all of this. And so, but my reasoning is this: I grew up in the '80s, and I remember in the '80s they were talking about the whole climate crisis and global warming and all this, and they all said that in 20 years. That California, if we didn't change anything, would be in the ocean. But yet, if you look at real estate prices on coastal communities, they have only gone up, and no one is trying to sell their coastal community properties for dirt cheap because all of a sudden the ocean's going to swallow them up. So to me, it's one big hoax.
Oh my God!
Places in California, like Carlsbad, like Encinitas, where the oceanfront homes are sliding down into the ocean, and so it's not really something that can be totally ignored. It hasn't been as catastrophic as it was told because we actually did something about it in California. California has taken a lot of steps to mitigate a lot of the climate change. Maybe that's why we're not seeing the same impacts as other states. But I do think that humanity could learn from the past, and that
I believe in that.
I mean, if you read the Archaic Revival, it's basically talking about how patriarchy got rid of the matriarchy and imposed this controlled, way of thinking and this whole system. And I think that we do have more to learn from women, and we should have a stronger role for women in making decisions for humanity. I think we are living in a male-dominated society, and the results are not always the best for all humans. And so that was the point of the Archaic Revival, that there was a point in humanity's evolution where humans were reconnecting to the Mother Earth through the use of psychedelics. And it wasn't all about controlling nature. It wasn't about dominating. We can be better than that. We're not just consumers.
Research from the 50s, Omar, was just very clear that when it comes to depression, and which is a major problem they're trying to find drugs for in the 50s and 60s, that entheogenics, especially psilocybin, were much better than the antidepressants they had. That research was done at the push from the CIA. They wanted to find a true serum. They said, go out and test every plant, and they figured out, shit, this stuff does some pretty good stuff. And that research is still there. I think we have a clearer path and an easier path to legalization of entheogenics than we do with cannabis, because the research is so clear. And when you look at like Prozac was no better than a sugar pill when you looked at moderate depression or even less, and the entheogenics are much better than that. And we have thousands of years of use of this. We don't have kids with 3 eyes and 4 legs and things like that. So we're not seeing that kind of stuff. But I think what we're seeing is we may have put a lot of these things on pause for a minute until the dust settles over this election and see where we're going to be going, what kind of forces can be mustered, and what can be done that takes the types of steps we need to move this towards legalization. Because again, the trap is out there. You can buy micro doses and full doses of psychedelics. Well, I used to go to concerts and take acid a lot, and that was a long time ago, and it's still out there. And so the trap will win if we don't figure out a way to put our heads together and talk about this and move forward with reasonable legislation.
Fair enough. Jenny, you have anything else you want to say on this?
No, I think you guys have pretty much covered it up, and I agree with Omar. Y'all should listen to women more.
Oh boy, here we go with all that.